If you know anything about me, you would know based on my recent reviews, I'm a huge fan of the survival horror game genre. But I also hate the genre as well. I'm a firm believer that horror video games are much worse than horror movies, TV shows, or films. I can read The Shining or watch The Exorcist all by myself on a dark and stormy night, but I'm playing a survival game I usually need to play during a bright and sunny day. I believe it's because video games are a much more interactive medium. In a film or book, there's only one way for things to turn out. In video games, you control the action and you determine the consequences, and that terrifies me. It's my firm belief that in order to review a game, you should finish it, but you must at least play enough to get a solid opinion. I never beat Silent Hill 4 before, so when this review was decided, I had to play and beat the game. I heard from some people that Silent Hill 4, The Room, wasn't supposed to be a Silent Hill game when it was first being developed, and I can definitely see that. First off, the game doesn't take place in Silent Hill. Instead, it takes place in the fictional town South Ashfield. I'll try to avoid spoilers as much as possible, since this is a Silent Hill game, and the story is one of the best parts about the game. You play as Harry Townsend, who's trapped in his apartment. The door is chained shut, the windows won't open, the phone and television are out, and no one can hear him scream. While exploring the apartment, he discovers a hole in the bathroom that leads to an alternate dimension. Similar to the two worlds of the other Silent Hill games, he goes to different areas: subway, forest, water prison, building apartments, and a hospital. In each of these areas, he meets a different person who is killed by an unknown man. When Harry returns from the hole back in his apartment, he notices that people who died in the areas died in the real world. This is where things get weird. The murders are similar to murders committed by the Walter Sullivan many years ago. Walter believes that Henry's apartment is his mother's. Yeah, you heard that right. Insert your mother as a big house. Joke here. Walter is trying to bring his mother back by performing a ritual that requires 21 murders. He was caught and arrested before and could finish the ritual. He killed himself in jail and is now trying to finish the ritual in the other dimension from beyond the grave. That's the gist of it. There's a lot more about the ritual. Walter's childhood, a reporter, the previous tenants of the room, but it gets too complicated. Presentation. Silent Hill 4 mixes two different styles of gameplay that also create different presentations. Some of the game takes place in Henry's apartment and is presented in a first-person perspective, while the rest of the game is in your typical third-person perspective. The first-person perspective offers some feelings of unease, especially in the latter part of the game, where the apartment is being haunted, and windows shake, bloody footprints appear, and much more, but they're more of jump scares than anything. The big question about the presentation in any survival horror game is it scary? The answer is a resounding yes. The other dimension versions of the subway, forest, apartment, prison, and buildings are creepy. There is an abundance of fog and dark corners which make it difficult to tell where the enemies are. There are certain fixed camera angles that add the feel of uneasiness. And there are set pieces that seem to move when you're not paying attention to them. Enemy presentation is also terrifying. You have your typical Silent Hill dogs and nurses which were scary the first time but start to get a bit predictable. However, there are two enemies in Silent Hill 4 which scare the bejesus out of me. First are the ghosts which follow you around, make the screen flash red, and cannot be killed with ordinary weapons. When there are the twin victims which are scary, conjoined with two creatures with a giant head, walk on their hands, and constantly scare and point at you. I hate these things. The gameplay. This is the big one. Story and presentation are one thing, but I judge a game based on its gameplay. So how is Silent Hill 4's gameplay? I can honestly say I enjoyed half of Silent Hill 4. The beginning of the game, you go through the 5 worlds fighting off enemies, solving very few puzzles, and the only goal is to set to the end of the level. The combat is simple, consisting of mostly melee weapons. You can charge up for an extra damaging attack with a pistol and a revolver thrown in. There aren't too many puzzles, which is a shame, but the ones that are there are rewarding and a decent challenge. You only return to your apartment when you need to save or store items, which is great because the first-person control in the apartment sucks. Then your neighbor Eileen gets attacked by Walter and everything changes for the worst. Eileen was supposed to be one of Walter's victims, but a young man infestation of Walter, and you stopped that from happening. Now, a few things that changed. Your apartment is no longer a safe zone. It's haunted and will no longer heal you, but rather hurt you. You can stop the hauntings with certain items if you can navigate the place, but it's quicker and easier if you rush the first-person sections of the game, like saving the organization's items. More unfortunately, is that you having to clear the hauntings in the apartment to get the best ending in the game. The next major change is that now you have to thread the same 5 levels all over again. Subway, forest, water prison, building, and apartment. The layout of these areas have slightly changed and the enemies are tougher. In addition, there are 2 new enemies. Super Ghost, which are the spirits of the characters you met the first time you entered the world. In addition, Walter himself will follow you through the level. He is unkillable and will constantly shoot you with a gun. He's really annoying. The worst change in the game is Eileen herself. Once you save her from Walter, she follows you throughout the rest of the game. You need to keep Eileen healthy in order to get the best ending. Unfortunately, she's an idiot. She can get attacked by enemies with a purse or riding crop. But if you run away from the enemies, she'll stay and try to attack them. However, when you try to leave her behind, she'll follow you anyways. She is by far the worst AI character in any game and there's no way to heal her. Her AI character is on the same level of Lois Lane in Superman 64, which I will avoid to talk about. The constant backtracking, annoying enemies, and giant exort mission ruins the game. When I played this game and started this review, I didn't know how to review it. If it wasn't for the giant exort mission in the middle of the game, this would be the worst Silent Hill game I've ever played, but it would at least be a decent game. However, the assault missions turn this into the worst Silent Hill games I've ever played, and one of the worst games in general I've ever played. The first half is fun, but Eileen ruins everything. It's that bad. Even if you don't care about getting the best ending, Eileen is terrible because she's constantly in the way and can and will get you killed. If this game stopped halfway through and took a different direction, it would be okay, but unfortunately, it doesn't. Therefore, it's bad. Silent Hill 4, The Room, gets a 4.5 out of 10. This is Red Wolf signing out, and I'll see you next time.